For the next 2-week block, we are going to be progressing those movement patterns that we taught you in the first block into the resisted squat, the resisted good morning, and the plank jack. So we would recommend that you perform these exercises 3 times a week, now adding a little bit more load or resistance to those movements. We're going to be showing you a resisted squat. Resistance can mean different pieces of equipment depending on what you have available. So we are going to demonstrate today a dumbbell, a kettlebell, and a band. But if you have some different equipment at home, like maybe a med ball or even a barbell, feel free to use that, or feel free, if you were here for weeks 1 and 2, to continue doing this body weight. So this is us kind of progressing you on throughout the program. So I'll give you some coaching tips as far as the resisted squat. Cupping the top portion of the dumbbell, he's going to place the dumbbell close to his body to make sure that this does not come away from his body at all, so we don't want you leaning forward at all. We want to make this part of your body. To begin initiating the squat, he's going to keep his neck in a neutral position. He's going to keep his torso upright. He's going to begin by hinging the hips backwards until he is about parallel with his knees here, and then he's going to forcefully extend the hips up and stand nice and tall again. So it's super important here to maintain a neutral neck and a neutral spine as we extend and load the hips. So give me 5 reps here. Making sure to keep the weight distributed in the midfoot, in the heel. We don't want our knees coming forward too much on this movement. So this will be 3. Good. 2 more. Good job, Dale. 1 more. Hips extend back, and he stands nice and tall at the top. This would be Dale doing the same movement from a side profile view. That way you can really focus on the major joint areas that I just talked about. So that upper body, the hips, the knees, and the feet here. So we're going to start by sending the hips back. Good. And then leading up with the shoulders and hips rise at the same time together. Let's go for 5 reps here. Good. This will be 3. Good. And notice that dumbbell is staying in contact with his body the whole time. He's not letting it come forward because your torso would follow with you. So we want to make sure you're nice and upright. If you had a kettlebell to use, I want to demonstrate how we would do the resisted kettlebell squat. So I want you to start with placing this kettlebell upside down. So the heaviest part of the dumbbell is at the top. And very similarly to the dumbbell, we want to make sure this kettlebell stays nice and tight to the body, that the elbows are tight to his chest here. And he's going to initiate the squat in the same way. We have a nice bend in our knees. We're going to shoot our hips back first. We load the posterior chain and then drive up. Good. We'll give you a side view now. We're sending the hips back and driving straight up. Good. If you do have a band that you're using, keep your feet about shoulder width apart on this one. And you're going to essentially place the band down on the ground for the lower portion to be touching the ground. And then keeping his feet about hip width, he's going to step inside the band. Yep, placing both feet flat on the ground, making sure that the band is tight with the ground here. Then he's going to bring this band up towards his chest area, and he's going to loop his thumbs underneath it. So his thumbs will be here, and the band will be here, and then his hands here will be up tight to his chest. From this position, he's going to initiate with his hips, keeping his core nice and engaged here. His back is neutral. Good, give me 1 more here. Hips are back, and then hips extend. And then we're actually going to turn to the side profile here so you're able to see better from the side view. So see how his hands stay up the entire time. So next we have the resisted good morning. So in order to start this movement, you're going to place your feet about hip width apart here and turn your toes out slightly to give your hips a little bit more room here to be able to sit back into the movement. Dumbbell placed in between our feet here, and Dale's going to go ahead and pick up the dumbbell and place this behind his head, so right above the posterior deltoid on your back, and you can go ahead and send your elbows back a little bit to help engage the back muscles here, but still make sure to keep them nice and tight to your body here. So to start this movement, we're going to take the hips, and we're going to start by sending them backwards, making sure that our spine maintains a neutral spine, and he has a neutral neck here as well. He's looking right at the ground in front of him until he is almost parallel with the floor, and then he will stand up nice and tall and extend the hips. So you want to have a soft bend in your knees here, so your knees will never lock out during this movement. Profile initiating with the hips, soft bend in the knee. He is maintaining a neutral spine. Resistance you chose to use for the good morning is a band. I'd like you to just place the edge of the band down on the ground, and then you're going to go ahead and step onto that band, making sure your feet are flat. Your feet should be about hip width apart on this one, toes turned out slightly. I'd like you to squat down a little bit, that way you can place this band on the back of your neck, and then you're going to stand nice and tall. So I kind of like to say these are like suspenders, okay? So if you'd like to kind of grab onto the edges of them, you can, or you can keep your hands out in front of you during this movement. To begin, he wants to make sure his chest is out, his shoulders are down and back in this position. He is going to extend reach the hips backwards into a hinge position until his torso is about parallel with the ground, and then he will extend the hips to stand back up nice and tall. Let's go one more rep in this position. Good, and then stand nice and tall, and then he's just going to make his way to the side profile. Make sure you're watching all the key joint areas, so we're looking at his neck is neutral, his spine is neutral, the hips are reaching back behind him, and he has a soft bend in his knee. Let's go for one more rep after this one. Good job. Extending the hips back, making sure the core is engaged, neutral spine, standing nice and tall. The next movement we have plank jacks. So we are going to come down into the high plank position. So in order to get in that position, we want to get into the quadruped position, which would mean his knees are down on the ground and his hands are down in front of him. From this position, he's going to reach each leg backwards until he is in a straight line with his body, that his feet, knees, hips, and shoulders should make one straight line. From this position, we are going to laterally jump out each foot at the same time and then bring them back together. So what we really want to maintain here is maintain our core position. So Dale, let's actually move you around. That way they're able to see. So that straight line position I'm talking about from his shoulders, hips, knees, and feet should all be in a straight line here. In order to have your core braced, we need to be in that straight line and tucking the core muscles down towards the rib cage. So Dale, let's go ahead and show what we wouldn't want to do. Leaning too far down and putting excess strain on the lumbar spine here, or coming too high up that the hips are now out of line with that straight line here. Okay, so we want to make sure that the hips are in line, and let's go ahead and show a good rep here where we're hopping laterally and then coming back in. A modification for this could be even stepping out one leg at a time. So if we're not able to fully do the jump yet, we can even work on just walking those legs out and back in. Another modification, similar to the high plank, where we talked about elevating your surface that you're working on, whether that's a bench, a wall, a countertop. That is also an option for the plank jack. So you would just stack your wrists up with your elbows and shoulders here, and then Dale would walk his feet backwards until he's in that elevated high plank position, and then he would hop his feet out laterally to the sides and bring them back together. Yep, let's go ahead and go for 3 reps here, so one more. Good.